All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 91 of our weekly show, The Hideout, where we will be talking about Web3 gaming and the Metaverse and all things digital. It's great to be back. I've been out these last two episodes with Spencer and Lau holding down the fort as we travel all around Asia for a few different blockchain conventions, representing Satoshiverse and Legions 2029 and the stuff we're building. It's been an incredible couple weeks. I am exhausted, but we have one more week to go. So we were at KBW a couple weeks ago, met a ton of awesome people in Seoul, and now this week we are in Singapore, doing a ton of events for Token 2049. So lots of exciting stuff. If you do happen to be in Singapore, please hit us up and we will definitely love to get together. But if not, we would, love to meet at other parts of the world when we get there. All right, so we got a pretty stacked panel today. I'm sure people will be trickling in. This is a different time than we normally do these at. So my guess is we're going to have a lot of people who typically attend who may not be here for this one, but hopefully this will also give some new people an opportunity since we're doing more of an Asia-focused time this one. But yeah, super excited to dive in. We've got a really eclectic panel here. So what we'll do to get this started is we'll do some introductions. I guess give us, a quick intro on yourselves, what you're building. If you have links that are illustrative, right, like a game demo or something cool just to show that's visual, feel free to pin it to the top of the spaces. We love to see that sort of thing. I personally believe that that's the best way of showing off what you're building. So I will start with a quick demo of myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and our Legions 2029 game. We've been building in this space since 2020, when we started our Satoshiverse project as a comic IP collaboration with the infamous Jose Delbo. We did some really cool comic art around our superhero Satoshi the Creator, and built out an entire lore that basically begins when Satoshi disappears and brings us into this crazy dystopian future where the defenders of fiat have taken over and we need to rebel against them. That rebellion is focused in our game, Legions 2029, which takes us into the outskirts and allows us to battle against the DOF and several gangs in a very fast-paced hack and slash blockchain-enabled game that we built with inspiration from games like God of War and Diablo. That game is live in alpha, and that's actually what you can see in the pinned tweet. Now is a great time to join. It's free to play. There's a ton of fun stuff happening within the game. We've got a ton of contests, the ability to win some prizes, including USDC if you place on our leaderboard, and then just, a ton of cool stuff. You can create your own avatar and mint it as an NFT for free. Got lots upcoming for that game. We're about to release some really exciting news on something we've been developing in Fortnite, so get excited for that. We'll probably have some more marketing stuff coming out there on socials. But yeah, just excited to be back, excited to be here, excited for a great conversation today with some legends of the space. Some we've had on here, some we haven't. And so I guess without further ado, let's jump over to Knowles, who is here, I think, for the first time, but has been a longtime member of the community and one of my favorite artists in the space. So great to have you here. Really excited to meet you, I guess virtually. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourselves for those who don't know and what you're working on.
Sure. Well, my name is Noe. I'm a photographer. I live in South Korea, but I'm originally from USA. And actually, I started doing NFTs like near the end of 2020, early 2021. And I can't see myself being anywhere but here. But regarding Web3 gaming, I was a project manager for Chibi Clash, which is like free-to-play Web3 game. So I'm pretty excited to be here and be able to add to this conversation.
Amazing. And your art has always resonated with the themes that, we've been building around, and that's probably something I've always been attracted to about your stuff since kind of the early days, on all the different art platforms. So excited to have someone with as much experience as you on the spaces. Let's jump over to GD Wizard from Generative Dungeons. Great to have you back.
Somebody summoned a wizard. Hey, enough about me. If you're in this show right now, go through this panel, start liking them, obviously, and send up your reactions, follow them, and retweet this space. It helps everyone. Not only that, this is a pretty mean looking panel. I'm just glancing at it, guys. If you're not seeing what I'm seeing and you're not following these guys, it's on you. But I'm a wizard. It's just what I do. I'm really a no one, just a guy in the background that does some stuff. But I represent Generative Dungeon. You can see them down in the chat. Go ahead, give them a like. They build really cool stuff. There you go. That's my shill. I literally run a show called Sick of the Shill, so I'm not going to shill you guys. But if you want to know about me, check my profile. If you want to know about Generative Dungeon, check it. If you like really cool stuff in tech, you'll find it. Yeah, that's my shill. I'm in Hawaii in
Amazing.
Thailand, so this is a great time zone for me, actually. So thanks for having me on, guys.
I love it, and yeah, I'm glad we can get some more Asia-based guests on here with this time. Maybe we'll have to make it kind of a permanent fixture, every couple weeks. But yeah, awesome to have you on again. I love the energy you bring every time. So definitely everything he said, double that. Let's get some follows and likes, and I know Spencer will do some housekeeping on that front once we get to him. But I don't want to steal his thunder, so. Let's jump over to our third guest over at Altura. Welcome to the spaces.
Hey, thank you for having me. And GM, and good evening, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world. I'm Tristan, otherwise known as Artega, and I am the head of marketing here over at Altura. I guess just to give you a quick, simplified version of what we do. So we are a leading all-in-one infrastructure platform that makes it very easy to integrate blockchain and NFTs into your game. But more importantly, streamline development so that you guys can focus on what truly matters in this industry, which is the creativity and innovation in gaming. Because really, all of us here at the end of the day are here to bring the next generation of games to market.
I love it. And something we talk about a lot on this spaces is kind of what gets us finally to, more mass adoption and really getting us over the hump of, okay, we've got a lot of really cool projects with really cool ideas, building blockchain games to, all right, blockchain is now integrated into every game that we play or many games that we play. And I really do think it is these seamless infrastructure plays, right? We have to get better on the tech side before we can really get better on the content side. I think there's some amazing ideas that are floating around, but ultimately it's going to be, some of the big game creators who have been creating games and focused on content for a very long time. And the blockchain element of it, I think, is going to be, back-ended to some extent. And I think, that's why it's so important to have companies like you helping these top studios that may not be blockchain, forward or even maybe blockchain enabled, um, do these things that may seem very abstract, but do them in a much more seamless way. So definitely excited about what you guys are building. I think it's awesome to have you on the spaces and can't wait to dive into the questions. So on that front, let's jump over to Spencer, who is on the Hideout account to do some housekeeping points and then take us in the questions for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, my name is Spencer Vogel. I'm the business development manager with Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment. And yeah, I'll be asking the questions today. So, couple of housekeeping items first. So real quick, I'm going to pin a post to the top of the space here. So we do a giveaway every week here on our spaces, and we're giving away 5 Satoshi's crystals this week, which are one of the main in-game resources, which allow you to upgrade your items and characters in game. Really important resource. So definitely want to have this. In order to enter, all you have to do is repost the post that I just posted to the top of the space that says we're live with the Hideout, and then just be here at the end of the space when we draw a winner. Super, super simple. So before we move on to the actual questions, just some format of the space. We'll start out with a question for the group. I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into the conversation from there. No need to raise your hand or anything like that. Then we'll move into individual questions for each of you guys. And then we'll move back into group questions at the end if we have time. So now let's move into the first group question. And first one to GD Wizard, since you guys are pretty much I guess maybe not pretty much, but you guys are a fully on-chain game. But what aspects of a Web3 game do you believe should live on-chain versus off-chain?
Well, that'd me being biased, to be honest, because there's certain things that I would love to have, but are they really needed? Are they the best things? Look at blockchain, man. It's so incredible. I mean, I couldn't even give you an answer for that, honestly. I mean, what could we put on there? Well, we can put car titles, we can put airplane titles, we can put concert tickets, we can put, proof of ownership. There's so much you could do with it. Like, what would I really want in there? Dude, I want a VR world in there. There you go. What do I want? But that's not really going to be the best thing, The heads that are coming into this space over the last 6 years, I mean, you had a mixed bag last bull run, right? But now you're getting some really tech savvy guys that are picking up that the blockchain technology can be used. It's proof of work at stake. It's got layers that you can work on. There's DeFi. There's so much that even just as a simple business owner, you can really take a grasp on crypto right now. And you're so far ahead of the game. And the best part, if you come in now, is that you've got access to all the tech that's working, that's easy. Any of you guys remember trying to open up your first MetaMask wallet several years back, or even 8 years back? Or however long, 60 years, I think it was. It was insanity. Anyone ever remember trying to make their first Bitcoin transaction? Holy shit. My first buddy, we sat there for 20 minutes, so we could buy some acid. That was it. It was insanity off the Silk Road way back in the day. And I remember thinking this technology is not going to cut it. Okay, so that was my opinion straight off then. But think about the opinions and the brains coming in now and the ideas they're going to have. So I can't really answer that directly, but I can say we're in for some exciting stuff. There is no doubt about that. Over the next few years alone, I'm super excited, especially for Web3 gaming. Just saying.
I guess I can hop in. Definitely can't follow that, but from an infrastructure side, I would say it's important to strike a balance between your security, your efficiency, and your user experience. For on-chain, I mean, you have ownership and trading of in-game assets, key game mechanics, and then smart NFTs as well, which is really neat because it has the ability to separately store metadata to seamlessly update assets both in-game and on-chain. Now, if you go to the other side of off-chain, I mean, features like chat, and maybe even multiplayer interactions in a chat room. These tend to be best handled off-chain for now, at least where we're at, just because we want to provide a smooth user experience without that latency that blockchain transactions can sometimes introduce. So that's what I believe in. Obviously, there's more, and we've seen a lot come, or I guess a lot more being built in this space, and it's really exciting to see, even with these big time players coming in and showing more interest in what it's about. I know back in Gamescom in Germany, had some really interesting conversations, even meeting people from EA Sports and EA Games that were at some of these side events, and it was really neat seeing their shared interest in the space, that now they're actually on the watch and on the lookout for what is truly happening in what we're doing and what we're building together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would echo, a lot of the points you made on the different parts that can be on-chain versus off-chain in terms of infrastructure. And that's kind of how I'm thinking about this question as well. Although I share Wizard's kind of optimistic view of the future and excitement about how all this folds into kind of the era of digital that I very strongly feel that we are going into, and the craziness that will ensue once VR and AR are part of our daily lives in a meaningful way. I think from a right now, if I'm developing a game, how am I thinking about blockchain? I really think it's depends on the development pipeline, right? I think there's obviously different types of projects in this space and different goals for those projects. And if I'm building a game that is highly dependent, regardless of use of NFTs or not, highly dependent on continued development from a more centralized team, right? If all the development of the game, your typical AAA style game is being done by a studio and it's being pushed forward and the NFTs are assets within the game and, you have that ownership aspect, but at the end of the day, if the game developer doesn't keep pushing the game doesn't exist. I think there's a certain inherent amount of trust with the game developer there, regardless of whether the game is going to be blockchain enabled or not. And so I think in those types of situations, the degree to which things need to be on the blockchain is much less. I think there you focus on, true use cases of the blockchain, things like ownership, transferability, downstream sales, potential interoperability both inside and outside the ecosystem. Really the kind of the core tenets that we talk about that will make blockchain useful, in various different types of game scenarios. But if you have kind of a more centralized development pipeline, I think things like user interactions being on chain, metadata being stored on chain, some of these other things that are kind of, nice to have, but not necessarily need to have unless we want the game to persist for 100 years, which it wouldn't, right? If it was a centralized game development. I think that's where, in theory, not everything has to be on chain for efficiency purposes, but I do think that the blockchain opens up new potential development paths. You look at, things like Decentraland or Sandbox that in theory, they can build their tool set, more kind of open source style development. In there, you see a huge benefit to having some of the metadata, the assets themselves being stored on chain or accessible through the blockchain so that you can really have truly decentralized development and governance. And, you can kind of weave together the idea, for example, of a more decentralized metaverse like, Decentraland has been trying to build for a very long time. I think there's probably where we'll see some of these more innovative decentralized development pipelines, coming out. But I think it's a spectrum. And I think that if we truly want to succeed as a space, we have to approach it as a spectrum and really embrace the uses of the technology that make sense for the game. And, you also have things like skill-based gaming, right, which has some new use cases that probably weren't possible before, because we can do, peer-to-peer non-custodial transactions with smart contracts. And so you open up the ability to do a lot of things in games that, regulators wouldn't like the game developer to do, but they can kind of de-risk it by using blockchain and open up a new element of skill-based gaming. So there's a million use cases, like Wizard said, but I think that really my view is not everything needs to be on chain. It needs to be dependent on the game and the development pipeline.
Yeah,
Knowles, do you have any
actually, I
thoughts?
wanted, yeah, I mean, I think before we start talking about all this like adoption and get all these people in, we need to solve the issue of like onboarding and user experience, because let's be honest, interacting with blockchain is kind of not very fun for beginners. And I say this because since I did take part in like creating a game, trying to get people who are not native to like blockchain to play the games is really difficult, especially when dealing with like wallets and seed phrases and signing things. So yeah, that's just before we can start talking about all these stuff. I think we need to make it an enjoyable experience and easy to do, because it is kind of difficult the way it is right now with most blockchains.
For,
And that's just what I wanted to throw in.
for sure. I was just gonna.
Yeah, and I think Altur, I see you unmuted, Mike. I was just about to say that that's where you guys come in.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Web3 gaming will just become gaming, and it'll be blockchain in the background. We have these social login wallets where people are using their Twitter, their Gmails. We have these credit card payment options where it's the equivalent of, buying V-Bucks on Fortnite. It's making it a streamlined process where they don't have to feel like they need to know the lingo or know the tech behind it. It'll just be gaming at the end of the day with, blockchain technology in the background.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. We talk to infrastructure providers all the time at these conferences and, on calls. And I think that is the overarching meta of just about every, infrastructure provider, and the vast majority of the funding that's going into Web3 gaming is, how do we make this more seamless? How do we put this in the background? How do we still push the use cases forward without compromising the gamer's experience, right? And so I think it's cool to see so many companies focused on it, because we built our game kind of in an era where a lot of these infrastructure solutions didn't exist, and it was a significant lift to build a game that fully integrated blockchain without kind of these solutions that were kind of plug and play. You had to, as a developer, you really had to do a lot of it yourself, and you had to kind of reinvent the wheel every time you needed something. And to an extent, you still do to solve certain problems. But now it's great. I think if we were building the same game now, it would probably take us 6 months less, because all these tools now exist, whether it's what you guys provide or, some of the other big companies focused on kind of providing modular, smart contract integrations and SDKs and things for Unity and for Unreal. I really think there's a lot there. I do think, kind of shifting the question a little bit, but to respond to your point, I do think that there's only so much we can do as game developers and infrastructure providers to get us there. I do think that the distribution angle of Web3 gaming, especially for high fidelity games, is a challenge. And I think that, until we have, for example, consoles and Steam, more readily integrating these blockchain solutions, I think it's going to be a challenge for blockchain games and that idea of everything being back-ended, right? Because if the distributors don't buy in to blockchain gaming and the regulators don't get on board for real money gaming, we're going to have a challenge getting there from a distribution standpoint. But I think all the pieces are coming into place. So I'll shut up, actually, because I see Wizard has his hand up. Jumping over to you.
I was just going to say, think about everyday life and what people really want, and then put that into blockchain. You've just solved all your questions. Keep it super simple. Check this. What's a bank? What's a wallet? You put them in the same category. Now turn them into crypto. You've got the exact same thing. Do I need to know everything about, say, Bank of America? No. What do I want? I want a piece of plastic that I can walk into a store and pay with, and I don't have to think about it. I put in my PIN code. I don't need to enter in my account information. I don't need to prove a signature. It's simplified, right? So the banking system has already done what we already need. And the more people that start paying attention to that, I think the faster we're going to get to the goals of the use cases, how we can use crypto, how we can mass adopt. I mean, the tools are coming. We've got the ability now. We've just got to take a step back and stop trying to, look, this is what most people do, I see. They're focusing on trying to sell to X or trying to sell to the same market over and over again. Take a step back and have a look. There's a big world out there. X isn't the only platform. There's a lot of other platforms out there. There's a lot of other ways to do it. Do I need to know everything about the other platforms or X? No. But do I know that there's going to be people there that'll find interest? Yeah. And can I present something to them that's going to work without them having to learn about it? Yeah. Boom. I just got my market. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think the age-old, proverb of give the people what they want applies here as much as anywhere else, right? We have to an extent, give the people what they want. But I also, I was a lawyer for 6 years before getting really interested in the blockchain space, and I know that we have a battle that we're going to need to fight in the blockchain gaming space, specifically with regulators and to get this organized. So I do think, we want to just make it that easy, right? We want to have the credit card equivalent of things in gaming. But there's also, the use case itself is slightly different, right? Self-custody, being your own bank, all these things. We have a certain amount of trust in these massive institutions. And so when you do deinstitutionalize some of these things, we're going to have tricky issues that I think a lot of smart people are going to have to think through and then spend a lot of time trying to convince maybe the not so smart people in the government on what to do with it all. But I think there will be some progress on that front in the next couple of years. I just think we may move slower than we all want to, just because of that. But it's great. The amount of experimentation that's happening right now is I think what we all need, right? The real progress is going to come from us trying and failing over and over and over again until we get something that works. And so I think that, to the extent we can keep doing that, it makes a ton of sense to try every, kind of going back to the question, try putting anything on chain, right? Like, let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't. We're in an environment that values experimentation and new ideas, and out of that are going to come industry standards for the future. So I'll kick it back to Spencer to take the individual questions, but great discussion on those topics.
Awesome. Great discussion indeed. And thank you, Nick. So first question is going to go to Tristan over at Altura. So what do you think are the biggest advantages and maybe also disadvantages as well for Web3 game developers or maybe, Web2 developers moving into Web3 to use SDKs and the type of tools that you guys provide versus building out all their own infrastructure from scratch?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty simple. So it's time, your time management, how much time you're spending on development. With these APIs and SDKs, you are streamlining development without that technical complexity or costly investment. Where you can simplify the integration so that you can spend more time again on that creative and innovative development department. All of us are pushing boundaries, and all of us are trying to bring more value to players of a multi-billion-dollar industry. So yeah, I would just say it saves a ton of time. Get to what you're doing, developing the game, and run from that.
So that was a simple question. I want to throw you a slight curveball because I'm curious on your thoughts on this. Hopefully this won't be too far off course. But, I one of the things I find interesting, having now been developing and really trying to understand the tech and all the different options for how we implement infrastructure. You have, managed solutions where you're kind of it's all super seamless and all uses blockchain, but you kind of have to stay within a closed ecosystem. You have more modular solutions, stuff like you guys and Third Web are building. There's a lot of different options for developers now who are maybe a Web2 project that are looking to onboard, to integrate your pipeline for Web3, integration, right? So I guess the question I always have is, if I'm a Web2 developer, how important is it that I really understand the nooks and crannies of, the blockchain pipeline that I'm implementing? What parts of it, are important for me to understand deeply? Or is this really something that we should view as kind of a back end, just more tech and, because I have my opinions on this, but I'll let you kind of jump in and tell me how you think about it. Like what parts of this are we pitching to developers saying, hey, that, it's not just about implementing it, but it's also about understanding, what you're implementing?
Yeah, for sure. Where do I start? So we've worked with and are still working with some Web2 games that are coming into Web3, whether that's mobile or on desktop. One of the biggest things is, you do learn over time. We've made it so easy so that any Web2 developer can really go in, they can integrate Web3 technology into their game. But then on the other side, like, we do offer that 24/7 development support. So we are on, 24/7, just because our team is around the world. And we help you. We help you learn it. We help you understand it. And then if you have any questions, that's where our developers come in and our engineers, and they can truly help you with all of that. So I would say it's more of a back end thing, but obviously some general knowledge does come into play. Um, and we've made it a little bit simpler, having that interoperability and functionality, and able to use multiple tools from multiple different people, and then using our tool set at the same time as well. Whereas some of these other providers might lock you in, and you have to use all of their tools, even if there is something better out there that is easier to use or simpler to understand, etc.
Totally makes sense, and thank you for engaging in the question. I feel similarly. I think we need to have a bit of both, and it will be a slow curve to get people up to speed. I think ultimately, as being on the game development side, the biggest challenge for me, and I think for a lot of game developers, is kind of understanding from a design perspective, not necessarily the blockchain aspect, but the real money aspect of the game, and making sure your game design accounts for a real money aspect, and that doesn't break the player economy or the game itself. So it's almost, like you guys get them 80% of the way there, but they still need to understand that 20% of, is this going to break my game? Is this something that's fundamental? Because having real money in a game obviously changes the way things operate, for a lot of games. At least that's kind of how we see it. I see, Knowles, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to throw in some experience because like I was project manager, so I often work with like developers and the idea of integrating APIs, SDKs and all that stuff. Uh, it sounds very seamless, but in practice, it's not often the case. For example, we were looking for like wallet solutions for our game, and it was a matter of just like importing and well, I'm not like a developer, so I can't really speak too much on that end, but I saw like the developers having so much trouble trying to integrate some of these AP SDKs, APKs, or whatever. And in the end, we had to like develop our own because not always do they give us the functionality that we want, or sometimes the developers are not very how can I say, flexible in what can be changed or not be changed in their code. So I just want to throw that little bit of experience out there. Like I know you guys are like more wizards and you're developers, so you have a better understanding of this stuff, but I can only say it as like the project manager standpoint.
I'm totally with you. I do agree on that. I mean, I'm the marketing guy over here. Definitely not a developer either. And I do understand. There are some infrastructure companies that their onboarding process, even to launch a collection or anything like that, it is a lot of manual labor. It is a lot of manual work, and that's why we kind of set ours up where it's just a few lines of code, and that's what really brings you in. And we're there every step of the way to assist any bugs, anything like that at all. Obviously, some do come up, but we are very, very quick to respond. And with time, you do learn. These developers do understand, and they start to understand the Web3 technology as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we do, there's so much fragmentation right now in this space when you look at the number of layer one, layer two, layer three protocols that are now focused on gaming that people are building on. And so I think doing it yourself is actually becoming trickier and trickier. And so the more that, companies like you guys and the others that are focused on specifically building these solutions, it's becoming near impossible to do it yourself as a developer. You need those solutions. But I think to Knowles' point, it has been tricky. We've gotten very deep into integrations only to realize that the solution that we on its surface would work may not work with all the things we've built. Looking at what the solution actually is, and is it compatible with all the other things we're building? So I think there's layers, right? I think actually you probably have an advantage if you aren't already a Web3 project and you don't already have infrastructure built, it's typically easier to just adopt a solution wholesale, and just link everything to it. But I think it's tricky, I think, for Web3 projects who have already built an ecosystem to kind of adopt some of these more modular solutions. But then every week we find out about a new one that looks super interesting for X, Y, or Z. And, ultimately the value that you guys provide and projects like you, I think are pivotal to us moving forward as an industry, because it's becoming impossible unless you're focused full time on that and you have a huge team and a good amount of funding. Solving the fragmentation issues right now are near impossible for any development team. So, kudos to you guys. Excited to see, what you guys are building. And I know we're going to be talking soon with the non-marketing side of your team. So definitely appreciate the answer. Let's go back to Spencer for the next question.
Absolutely. So next question is going to go to GD Wizard. Generative Dungeon has playable and customizable RPG NFTs. So I was wondering if you could tell, for people who might not be familiar, how it's possible for an NFT itself to be a game. And then, what other types of use cases do you think might be overlooked for NFTs?
Overlooked? My goodness. Talking about building stuff, that's what I've had to do a lot this year. Look, I'll be honest, I never wanted to be a developer. I never wanted to do this stuff in the background. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to find really, really cool NFTs and that have a future, not just a monkey JPEG, but I wanted to find really cool NFTs that, 5-10 years time could be something of value or something of use or whatever. The first NFT I got was just me pushing a friend to make one because he was an artist. And the second one I got was actually a Generative Dungeon NFT. I hadn't owned, and I've been in crypto for years. I just had no interest in NFTs because there was nothing there. Crypto Wendio, God bless her heart. She put out I think it was a sponsored video at the time of the first playable NFT, which hadn't released. That was with Generative Dungeon. So I got hold of Dungeon Master, got into the Discord. It had a whole of 18 people, I think, in there at the time. And I won't say it was unorganized, but the people that were running like the community didn't have a community feel about him. Dungeon Master himself, the founder, he's a coder. Well, he doesn't even bring his head out of the dungeon unless he has to. He tries to avoid the sunlight. He stays down coding. And I got into it that way. So suddenly I discover we now have an NFT that has a use case for me. It's playable, which is cool. And then I started reading through the roadmap and looked at his ideas and went, I'm not even scratching the surface with what I want here. Like this guy's got it happening. So I then became, the helper wizard in the Discord, moved my way up eventually, project management and stuff like that. Now I basically just do a bit of everything. He codes in the background. I'm coding in the background. I'm trying to do, the other space and that. So we've got a lot going on. Anyway, back to the NFT itself. So discovering this NFT and what it could do, we now get talking. We look at the future of it, and what Generative Dungeon originally was, it wasn't meant to be a game, just a playable NFT. It never ever was built for that. It was built to be a platform so someone could buy an NFT and then create and build their own metaverse off it, their own, not someone else's, not an off-chain thing, but literally their own. So the first thing he does is makes it customizable. You can go into the NFT with a 2D builder, no code, and design your own game. Okay, so if you've got an NFT with, say, 20 floors on it, one of the Generative Dungeons, you can build 20 floors. If you've got 150, boom, guess what you got? So you can go and edit it. Then he brings out the characters or the avatars, which can now play inside the 2D game. They're in 3D and pixelated art, and they're also playable too. So you can now play a battle royale game on that NFT. Moving forward, we get Bitcoin ordinals. You can play on a Satoshi, slay dragons on a Satoshi, I like to say. Moving on from that, we then released our Generative Quest, early version, early access. So you can now take your NFT and go into the off-chain version, download from Epic Games our 3D enabler, and now you can play your dungeon in 3D, the one that you built, customized, which is really cool. Going on from that, so if you're an owner, this is what I've done. If you look through my profile, you'll see I've got this wizard thing going around over several platforms. I've got Sick of the Shill, I've got Dungeon Knights Heroes. Now, this is me taking advantage of what Dungeon Master put right in front of me to start building with. He's done all the hard work in the background. He's made playable NFTs. These NFTs are now streamable. You can live stream. We do it every week, every Saturday. We live stream a show directly to our NFT. And we're just taking advantage of what he's got because he's got all the tools there. Now it's up to me as the owner of the NFT to do my best with it. So I came out with Dungeon Knights Heroes. So all the avatars I bought, I gave them lore, I gave them names, I put them in their own world. I literally got maps drawn up to show where they go. I've got books that go with them. I've got the playable cards that go with them, which connect you to 6 different styles of play, including Web3 games. Okay, so that's just what we've done. But we're not posting, we're not shilling, we're not hyping, because at the end of the day, what we've done is we've built the platform, or not me, but Dungeon Master's built the platform, and it's us as the owners to take advantage of that. So that's a completely different way of looking at NFTs. The future of that going on, let's say all these other NFT owners, let's say they drop the floor, no one else is buying, we go quiet for a while, and I sweep them all up. Well, guess what I now own? I own my own multi-metaverse with up to however many of these things I own, and I can lease, I can rent, I can open the dungeons up, I can close them, I can drop prizes in there. Oh, by the way, it's all play to earn. You can go on OpenSea, click on the NFT, click the top right corner, click compete, and then you are now playing the play to earn version of that game. And if that particular game has any play to earn stuff on, if someone's drops an ETH or if there's some prizes or whatever, you can go in the game and play it directly on OpenSea. How cool is that? You even claim it off OpenSea. So we've done a lot. Right. Like I said, I don't want to shill, just telling you literally, this is what we've done. What you want to do with it, it's up to you. But I mean, I play with them regularly. If you want to join me, if you want to level up your character, let me know. But I mean, that's just a small drop in the ocean. What we've got coming, not just with, Generative Dungeon, but with the world and the ecosystem I've built around it, we're going to be around for a while. We're going to be having fun, and we're not trying to hustle for money. We'll just slowly poke along at it. But in the background, I've got to learn a lot about JavaScript that I never thought I'd have to, but here I am. That's my story. Thanks for listening, guys.
Amazing. Great story. You're an amazing storyteller. I love the accent. I could listen to it all day. So next question, we're going to go to Knowles. So why do you think Web3 is an effective avenue for releasing photography? And are there any new developments in the Web3 photography space that you're especially excited about?
I have quite a few thoughts. Like, for example, as a photographer, like, we've been using like Web2 things for like so many years. For example, like Instagram, and you gotta dedicate so much time and effort into posting and doing stories and commenting and reels and all this shit, basically, just to get like the algorithm's favor. But you're not really getting much out of it except for Instagram, which they get like all the money basically for all of your hard work. And this goes the same for like almost every social media platform. And luckily, Web3 is kind of changed that. It's getting rid of the intermediaries. I would really like to see a good social media platform, and it doesn't necessarily have to have like a token or anything, but one that isn't like governed by algorithms or by moderation teams, or just something that lets people see your work. And I know I'm getting a little bit off the question, but the nice thing about NFTs and photography is that oftentimes people steal your work or pass their work as yours, and having them like on chain, or people can like track it to see your wallet, they can verify that it's actually you that made that picture and that you shared that picture. And for me, that's kind of a game changer. Like, for some people, maybe they don't care, but for me, it's pretty important. And even more so that I'm not wasting my time or years just posting into the void, where I can maybe sell an NFT. And even if it's only $5, that's still $5 more than I would have made posting like 5 or 6 years on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to give another slight curveball in this question, because I think it probably seems obvious to maybe us and a lot of the people that have been in the space for a long time, but recognizing that we have kind of an eclectic viewership, I want to kind of go back to the core value proposition of NFTs, specifically for photographers, because I remember back in 2021, when I was just kind of getting into actually helping artists release their NFTs, I worked with a photographer who was very well known in the sports space to help him release some NFTs of famous athletes he had shot over time. And this is someone who was selling already his printed works for, $5 to $10 to $20,000 in galleries. But it was interesting to me because his work, like so many photographers, was digitally native, right? And I think that, when I talk to people about what NFTs did for artists, it's specifically the digitally native artists that I think NFTs have opened up so many new doors for. But rather than me kind of going down that path, I'd be curious to know, just at its core, um, what was life like, as a photographer trying to sell your work prior to NFTs, and what was life like post NFTs, and I mean, just share your experience. It doesn't have to be anything profound in
Sure.
terms of, where things are going.
Well, the first hurdle is being able to get seen, because like algorithms they favor certain things, and they either push you or they just like throw you into the void. So that's like the first hurdle, and it's a pretty big hurdle for most people. The second is I sold prints, and I still sell prints, but when I sell a print, the store might sell it for like $40 or something, right? And the people who help provide those services, they might only give you like $1 out of the 40 or something, because they're shipping it and everything. So, but they still take like a pretty big cut. So that's like the second hurdle, is like you get almost nothing from selling physicals. And if you want to do all of that work yourself, it's it takes a long time. And for example, I made a book, I printed the books, I had to import them into Korea because no one here in Korea would print my books because I'm not Korean. Right there, I spent like maybe $3,000 just printing the books, and then I had to pay like $500 import taxes. And then this was during COVID. I had to ship the books, but the shipping was $50 minimum, just sending them from Korea. So already, if I were to sell the books, I get like almost very little cut out of anything, despite all the work. I mean, it'd still be better than sending it through a website, but I would be going multiple times to the post office to like mail all this stuff. And that's what life was like before NFTs. And now NFTs come around. I'm able to, well, thanks to X, even though the algorithm is not that great, but like sometimes people can see my work much better than Instagram. And if they like one of my like photography NFTs or something, like they can just go and click with their wallet, sign it, pick it up. And I'm free to continue working on more things, and I don't have to worry about, some store taking like 98% of the profits or something. I mean, right now, like Super Rare and Foundation, all those places, they take like, 15%, and some people make like a big deal of it, but to me, it's like, it's a blessing. Uh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, your experience has definitely been something that I've heard with other artists that I talk to, in that it it gives you such a broad, distribution pipeline that wasn't uh, accessible before if you were in the physical space. And I worked obviously closely with Jose Dobo, when he was creating his NFTs, and he was a physical artist before, and we had the same experience. It's so hard still to ship prints around the world, and to do custom work, but you could be collaborating, you could be working with commissions for collectors and artists all around the world, simply, by virtue of this new technology. And then, not to mention platforms, like you said, Super Rare Foundation, even the curated platforms, Nifty Gateway, Maker's Place, that allowed you to reach a worldwide audience with the click of a button and an email. And,
And I haven't even spoken about payments either, because like I've had the banks freeze my money, and I've had PayPal close my accounts just because like it was suspicious. Like one time I got like a $50 payment for like some posters I made, and it was from Germany by bank. And my bank called me, and they were suspicious. Like, they actually asked me if I was trading and stuff like that. I was like, what business is it of you, right? Like at the time, back in those days, I wasn't trading. I didn't even know anything about it. It was like 2016. But it's such an annoyance dealing with like the traditional pipelines for like money and stuff.
Yeah, as Wizard referenced before, that's kind of how crypto got its start, right? People didn't want to deal with all the red tape with payments, and Silk Road was born, and there was a lot of interesting that those initial use cases, I think, introduced a lot of people who are actually now, it's funny, a lot of the people who are extremely influential in the crypto space today were kind of born out of that initial using crypto as a payment for things that may not be as easy to do with fiat currency,
Yeah,
whether
I
that was.
think anyone here in the audience might be more willing to take like a bunch of shit coins than fiat. Because like at least if it's like some kind of crypto, even if it is like a meme coin, you can send it to an exchange, change it to USDC without anyone's permission, and that's great. But if it's like dollars and you get charged by the bank, and then there's so much friction, and everyone gets a cut, and then by the time you get your money, it's already like quite a bit gone.
Yeah, I I think we could probably have a whole entire series of spaces just on, the use cases of crypto for debanking and decentralizing finance and all those things, right? And I think there's so many interesting use cases there. But at its core, I think that that's a key thing for artists, the ability to receive payment from all around the world, not have it, at least to have it go, if we're talking about doing it the right way, maybe have it go to a Coinbase, right way, maybe in the regulator's eyes, have it go to a Coinbase or some centralized exchange. Even then, it's so much easier to then just do a deposit into a bank account from a, centralized exchange. But having the ability to just send one, payment address, because I mean, I think as an American, I sometimes had a very US centric view of how payments worked around the world. And, I think sometimes we just assume, oh, everyone has Venmo, everyone can just send some money easily. But that is not the way it is. PayPal is not available everywhere. You have all sorts of different restrictions, but
Yeah.
anyone can connect to a crypto wallet.
These days, one of the most annoying things for me is that like I don't use an American bank account anymore. I just have like a Korean bank account and I have like my debit card. But when I want to buy things, like sometimes places like they force you to use a credit card, and like I don't want to owe anyone money, I want to have like a card that just like uses my crypto or uses like the little bit of money I have in like the fiat account. But it just feels like they're like trying to trap you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, give it a couple of years. I think we'll be there eventually. We're already seeing some progress there, and I'm excited for it too. I hope we can get there, because I'd certainly love to do that as well. All right, so I guess Spencer, I don't know how much. I guess we have about 5 minutes left. So if we want to start wrapping up, let me see. I think we have a winner to announce for our giveaway. So if you want to
Sure.
take that on.
Yep, the winner this week of 5 Satoshi's crystals is Freddie Numbers at Freddie Numbers. Congratulations. In order to claim your prize, if you do not already have a Satoshiverse account, please go to game.legions2029.com, create a free account, and send the Satoshiverse account a DM with your username, and we will drop those into your account. Congratulations, Freddie Numbers. And Nick, I will pass it back to you to close us out.
Yeah, congratulations to my man Freddie sporting his Trevor Jones Crypto Angels avatar. I love it. Very, very cool, and glad you won. Thanks for being here. But yeah, let's start wrapping this up. What I'll do is, if anyone, I'll kind of just touch on a couple things that we talked about, and then if anyone has anything coming up, this is the time to let people know about what's coming, and maybe if you have some alpha or just a shill, this is our chill, non-chill window, to kind of talk about what's coming. From our perspective, nothing crazy other than what we've already said. If you like gaming, if you like Web3, make sure to jump on and give Satoshiverse and the Hideout a follow. We do this every week. There's no monetary incentive for us to do this other than, just bringing really great people on board and talking about some really cool subjects. We're going to keep doing this as long as we can, forever, hopefully. And the only way we can do that is if people keep showing up. So thank you for being here and for supporting the guests who come on the show. We'll resume next week at our normal time and have another great panel. For those of you who haven't tried Legions 2029, check it out. It's free to play. It's currently open, although we are keeping the community nice and tight and really focusing on, gamers who want to give feedback and getting that feedback. So, if you do play the game, jump into the Discord, tell us what you think, and we will respond accordingly. Whether it's good or bad, we're always excited for feedback. So, kicking it over to the rest of the guests, feel free to jump in if you want to close with anything, and then I'll wait about 30 seconds because there's a delay between us talking and them hearing us, and then I will close the spaces. So thank you to everyone, and go ahead with the guests.
Hey, I want to say thanks, Hideout, Satoshiverse, for running the space today. It's been a lot of fun, and it's always good to jump into space with some really cool and really, really awesome projects. So thanks for getting me up for that. Remember, guys, show some love to this space. If you haven't yet, retweet the space. Follow the guys in here. It is really worth it. And I do a show every Saturday morning. It is for the Asian time. It's 8 a.m. Indo-China time. You can check it out in Dungeon Knights Heroes. We'll be moving to our own show soon. So we do have another Asian show if you want to check it out. It's called Sick of the Shill, where we literally go and check out shows that we were shilled to through the week. If you shill me on my Twitter, I'll actually go check it out, and then we do a very brutal review each week on the show, as if we're new people too, not as if we're experienced. So if you want to check it out, come say hi. Would love that. Anyway, have a good week, guys.
And as for me, if you like photography and you like collecting artists, NFTs, I do have some pieces. I'm accepting offers. Any crypto, it could be Dogecoin if you want. Anything really. Just shoot me a DM with an offer for a piece you like, and we can work it out.
Yeah, no, just
That's it.
for me, I want to say thank you again for having us on here. It's been amazing talking with the other great projects that you've brought on. Something upcoming for any of the projects out there, we do have our grant fund, which we have just supercharged with our homies over at Neo Tokyo. So the winner of that grant fund will also be rewarded an S2 Outer Citizen along with some other items as well. And if you haven't already, hop into our community. There's definitely a ton of alpha that gets spread out in there, and a bunch of our projects that do giveaways, etc., alongside our 100,000 Alu giveaway that's happening right now. But yeah, just want to say thank you for having us on here.
All right, I love it. Thank you again to all the guests, and thank you for joining. We'll wrap it up there, and I'll end the spaces in 30 seconds. Thanks.
See you then.